name is Robertson, and I am the founder of Shield Technologies. So 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, I was in Austria, and I was sitting on my bunk bed studying abroad, and I got a phone call, which is unusual because my family, we keep in touch, but when I'm overseas, they only make long-distance calls when something really needs to be addressed. And so I pick up the phone, and it's my mom, and she says, "Hey, your dad's in the ER. He was hit by a car." And so I sat there, and I thought, Dad was hit by a car. Me and my dad were very, very, very close growing up, and so I sat there and I just felt helpless, and I was, how did this happen? And so what had occurred was a police officer was responding to an emergency, and it was coming around the corner quickly. My dad was already turning, and by the time that my dad had heard the sirens, it was too late and there was an impact. So Dad's car was totaled, he was put in the ER. And I just remember thinking in that moment, how did this happen? How could it have been prevented? I feel helpless. Thankfully, he pulled through. He was fine, which I thank God for, because it was an accident, and it was a heck of a hit. But the police officer was doing his job, protecting the people, and my dad was doing his job, getting to work, and the two collided. So I thought, okay, this needs a solution. But how big is this problem? Is this something that just happened to me out of a freak accident, or is this something that faces people day after day after day? Well, after doing a lot of research, we found out that this happens to 500 people every year, and that 500 are killed. They're not as fortunate as my dad was. There's 10,000 first responders that unfortunately crash into civilian vehicles every year, and there's $35 billion of damages done to the system throughout the duration of 1 year in the United States. So I went to first responders. I said, how much of a problem is this to you? I've been to Sumner County, Wilson County, Davidson County, as well as Trousdale County. And this is what they had to say about these accidents. They said, usually it's distracted drivers, drivers that don't have time to react, or the drivers are uninformed on what to do when they hear the sirens. These three conglomerate problems introduce this massive problem to the United States and results in a lot of deaths. So what's the solution? The solution is Shield. And what is Shield? Shield is a smartphone application that has two major facets. One is a digital siren. If you have the Shield application and you are on the same route as a first responder, it's smart enough to notify you 20 seconds in advance, which is 600% increase of what you would hear otherwise. On average, you hear about 2 to 6 seconds of siren before the police car passes you. The second facet of Shield is a mass Bullhorn alert. So part of the functionality when we built the Shield application was, okay, we can geo-coordinate where you are in relation to a first responder. How can we use this technology and make it more effective? So it has a Bullhorn functionality. Let me demonstrate exactly how this works. For example, in Nashville, as all of you know, there was a bombing. And the first responders went in and risked their lives to protect the people in those buildings, not knowing when that bomb was going to go off. They went into every door, they knocked on every door inside the facilities and made sure it was evacuated before it detonated. Thank God no one was injured too seriously, but that was a big risk, and that could have been mitigated with Shield. So I'm about to drop a Bullhorn on our location here at Lipscomb. In a moment, you'll hear the phones go off with a sound that's going to notify you that something is happening in your area. This would act a lot like Amber Alert in the fact that it will push through any pre-existing sounds, any music playing, anything on your phone, any videos. You'll hear the sound, you'll look down at the phone and say, wow, there's XYZ, there's a fire at Lipscomb University, we need to evacuate. There's a bomb in the area, we need to be further away. There's someone that's been taken or kidnapped. What do they look like? What is their description? So these are functions of the Shield's Bullhorn application that can be really, really, really powerful tools. The second functionality of Shield is that digital siren. So if you come within a certain radius of a first responder responding to an emergency, you will hear this sound. Similarly to the Bullhorn, to let you know you're driving on the route, first responder is approaching. The next phase of the application will have detailed instructions on exactly what the drivers should do to help educate drivers to solve the problem of the first responders saying that drivers are uninformed. So this gives you up to 20 seconds of warning for you to pull over and yield to the road, which will help first responders get to their emergency faster when seconds matter the most. So we've conducted 4 case studies in the 4 counties I mentioned before, Davidson being one of them. And here's some of our data findings was that an average of 5 seconds usually is what you get to make a split-second decision on the road when you're going 70 miles an hour. You get 20 to 25 seconds to make a decision with Shield. Shield's distinct chime during our field test, no one was ever confused. It was very easy just to say, okay, I know because I hear Shield's chime that there's someone approaching. So in our field test, every time the drivers would pull over and our first responders would pass, we did test this with actual first responders and EMS providers. And then we also set mock bullhorns, saying that the precinct that we tested at was on fire, and everyone with the Shield application got a 100% success rate notification on their phone that there was in fact a fire, and they did evacuate the building. And then at the end, they all said yes. When we asked, is this something that you want to partner with in the future once we have a full product, every one of the 4 counties said yes, which is huge. And we'll get into a little bit of what that yes will mean in the future for Shield. But it worked every single time, and there are limitless use cases for what this application could do for the safety of you and for the first responders. Part of what Shield's value is that all of the information it gives you is relevant immediately to you. As opposed to what exists now, which is Amber Alert, you might get a notification of someone that's 60 miles away. But with Shield, you only get notified of events that are happening in your immediate area and that would affect you. This will mitigate people turning off the notifications because every time they get a notification, it affects them directly. And what does it cost to save lives? How are we going to make money off of this? What would it cost the users? At $1 a month, Shield will become a profitable company. And at $1 a month, you can save your life, you can save a first responder's life, and you can help them get to emergencies faster. Right now, our target markets are the 4 counties we mentioned with about a 1 million population total. There are 824,000 smartphone users, and comparing different strategies for adoption, we figured that a 90% adoption rate was likely for the smartphone users, so 740,000 adopters by 2022 after our marketing strategy goes out. We'll be using PSA channels throughout Davidson, Wilson, Sumner, and Trousdale counties, a lot like the seatbelt campaigns that have happened, and now everyone pretty much wears their seatbelts. We'll be using those channels, which will be free for us. TDOT roadway campaigns, again, is a free advertisement route that we can go. We actually have a meeting with TDOT next week. Of course, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. TikTok is going to be huge because it's a younger generation, and they're going to bother their parents about downloading the app once they see it on TikTok a bunch. And then MindGrub marketing team. MindGrub is the team that we partnered together with to build the application, and they have a marketing resume that goes back to 2014, and they've had some very, very successful campaigns for very, very cheap. At $1 a month, with that first initial population, we would be doing $8.9 million in yearly revenue. And these are our operating costs per county. And so as Shield presents this solution, our ROI is 609%. Because we're providing a digital solution to a very, very real problem, we can solve it for very, very cheap. The ROA for the state, who will be paying for it, if Tennessee was outfitted with Shield, it would cost $64 million. This problem in Tennessee is a $700 million problem. The state would have a 1,093% ROI on their investment. To give you a good comparison, everyone has used a roundabout. Roundabouts have an ROI of $13 to 1 over 20 years. Okay, that's fine. Shield would have an $11 to $1 over 1 year, and $218 to $1 over 20 years. To give you a good comparison that the government would in fact spend money on this. Competition right now is called Citizen. It's a social media thing that kind of does what we're wanting to do, but all they have is the Bullhorn. Code Red, which is weather-based Bullhorn alerts, and Atlas, which again is Bullhorn alerts, and it's a city bulletin. But none of these competitors have our GPS geo umbrella technology, which pings drivers, and that is patented. Our future financial allocations, with the $20,000, we would be looking into the AWS server development, which is scaling how many people we can host with our Shield application. Right now, we can do about 1 county, what we have right now in our infrastructure. $8,000 would go to our marketing and our branding. $2,000 is our web design, and then $5,000 would be tweaks to the current application, which does work. So help me save lives and protect what matters most with Shield. Thank you, guys.